Hey my loves, welcome back to the channel and to another tutorial. Today we'll be cutting this A-line dress with a stylish sleeve. If you're interested in making this, kindly keep watching, and I'd like to say thank you to all new subscribers. Thanks for joining the family. And to my returning subscribers, thank you for staying and always coming back. It's because of your support I'm able to keep going. Please do well to subscribe if you haven't subscribed and hit the notification button to get notified whenever any video is uploaded. Also like and leave a comment in the comment section. Now without wasting my time, let's get into the making of the dress. So I'm using this piece of cloth to show how I folded my fabric, as it's big and it might be off camera. So I'll be taking all the measurement directly on my fabric. So I started off by marking half of my shoulder measurement on my starting line, and I came down by ½ inch, and then afterwards I extended the line downwards to mark my armhole depth. After I finished, I connected it to my shoulder and then extended it into the armhole. So from there, I divided my armhole depth into two, and then I marked the midpoint of it. After I finished marking the midpoint, I went in by ½ inch from where I marked my midpoint and marked. From there, I inserted quarter of my bust measurement on my chest line, and then I added 1½ inch to it. This is for ease. If you want it more loose, you can add more allowance. If not, you can make it 1 inch or 1½. After, I went ahead to mark my neck width, and I connected it to my shoulder, just as you see me doing here. So from there, I use my ruler to connect it to the shoulder, and then I use my curve to connect it to my armhole. Now you can just use your curve to just connect it from the armhole straight to your shoulder. Moving on, I went ahead to mark my shoulder to my bust line, my shoulder to my waist, and then my shoulder to my hip line, and I took the full length as well. I'm sorry if the chalk is not visible enough because of the fabric. I really tried as much as possible to ensure that the markings are visible, so please bear with me. So from there, I went ahead to extend the lines on the point I marked with my rule, just as you see me doing. The next thing we are going to be doing is insert quarter of our waist measurement on our waistline and add 1½ inches allowance for ease. Now you can add 2 inches or more if you want it to be more loose, or you can just add 1½ inches. And we are going to also insert quarter of our hip measurement on our hip line and add 1½ inches as well. Now for our seam allowance, we are going to be adding 1 inch to the waist, to the hip, to the bust line. So from there, we are going to be connecting the point with our curve, just as you see me doing. I hope the markings are visible enough for you to see. So for the A-line, you can come in from the hem of the dress 2 inches and you connect it to your waist, just as you see me doing. Or you can just put your rule on, depending on how much fabric you have left, and then you just connect it, leaving some space for sewing allowance, and you connect it just as you see me doing. Moving on to the neckline, the depth of our neckline is going to be 2 inches. So we mark that and then we connect it to the shoulder, our shoulder with a curve, just as you see me doing. You can also use freehand as well. So after we are done, we are just going to cut it out. So we are going to be working on the front pattern. So I just took one of the pieces out and then I used it as my front. For the front neckline, you can leave it at 2 inches or you can extend it a bit more. I left mine at 2 inches, and then on the center front, I went in by 1 inch and I came down by 7 inches. That is for the opening that is in front of the dress. So from there I went ahead to connect it with a curve. You can use a rule as well, but then I used a curve because I didn't want mine to be so sharp. And from there I just cut it off, just as you see me doing. So after cutting it out, I'll be going ahead to work on my sleeve. So I drafted my sleeve pattern off camera, and then on the hem of the sleeve I added 3 inches. If you want a more A-line sleeve, you can add 4 inches or more, and then we are going to connect it to the armhole of the sleeve, just as you see me doing. So from there we are just going to connect it to the hemline of the sleeve as well. The sleeve is going to be in 3 sections. For the first section, I came down from the crown 8 inches, and then from the hemline I came up by 3 inches. If you want more fabric at the end, you can come up by 4 inches or 5 at most. And then I extended the lines towards the armhole, just as you see me doing. So I went ahead to label my pattern so that I'll know which one will be for fabric and which one will be for the organza or the net, so I don't get confused and mix them up. So from there I just went ahead to cut the pieces out, cut the sleeve out, and afterwards cut the pieces out as well. So after cutting the sleeve out, we are going to cut the sections out individually as well, as we are going to be using it to cut on our fabric or organza or net individually. So after cutting the pieces out, we are going to put the sections or the pieces of the sleeve on our fabric and our organza or our net, and then we are going to cut them out. Please don't forget to put each of them on fold as you are cutting, and then you leave half-inch allowance at the end for the joining of the sleeve. So I'm using this organdy fabric to cut my middle piece of my sleeve out. You can use a net or you can use the structured one, the structured organdy. There's one that is a bit more structured. This one was all over the place, and if you are using it, you'd have to have patience and pamper it like you are holding an egg. After we are done cutting the pieces out, we are just going to be joining the pieces. So we are going to join the 3 pieces together, right sides facing each other. We are going to pin them down, and then we are going to go on to our sewing machine, and we are going to sew and join the pieces together. So from here we are just going to go ahead, and then we are going to cut facing for our front and our back. So we'll just take a piece of fabric, and then we are just going to put the neckline of our dress on the front and the back on, and then we are just going to trace the neckline out just as you see me doing. I didn't really use any measurement for this. I just put the neckline on and then I just cut, and then for the down I just shaped it to get this curved shape as you see me doing. So after I finished, I just placed the facing on the fabric, right sides facing each other, and then pin them down just as you see me doing. So from here we are going to go on to our sewing machine, and then we are just going to sew our neckline, and then we are just going to join the pieces of our sleeve. So now we are done joining the facing to our neckline and then joining the sleeve pieces. So I place the pattern on and I cut the excesses out. The next thing we are going to do is to join our shoulder. So you put them right sides facing each other, and then you take one facing and then you flip it to meet the other facing at the other end. So facing to facing and main fabric to main fabric. So we are going to be hemming our dress. So we are going to be hemming it with the allowance that we left. So I folded mine over twice like you see me doing. But for this part, if you have a knitting machine, you can just knit it and then you fold it on just once and then you pin it down. And we are going to be doing the same for our sleeve. We are going to fold it over twice with the allowances that we left. That is, if you don't have a knitting machine, but if you have a knitting machine, you knit the end and then you fold it over once. So after hemming the dress and our sleeve and then joining the shoulder, this is what we have. Now the next thing that we are going to be doing is to attach our sleeve. So we first notch the center of the sleeve and then we are going to be attaching our sleeve to our dress, right sides facing each other, just as you see me doing. So you pin the middle part of the sleeve to the middle part of the shoulder, the shoulder, and then you pin it down. So we are going to pin all around the sleeve just as you see me doing, and we are going to be doing this for both sides, and we are going to go on to our sewing machine and we are going to sew. After we are done sewing our sleeve, we are going to be closing up our sides of our dress with the 1 inch allowance that we left. So you make sure the armhole is meeting and then you pin it down, and from there you are going to pin it all the way to the end of the dress, the hem of the dress, and then we are going to be closing it up with the 1 inch allowance that we left, just as you see me doing. We're going to mark our sewing allowance from the end of the sleeve to the hem of the dress, and then we are just going to be connecting the points, all the points, with a rule to see where we are going to be sewing, and then we are just going to sew over. And we are going to be doing this for both sides of the dress. So after closing up the side, I took my dress for knitting, and then in order for the facing to stay down and not be moving about anytime that we wear it, I decided to keep mine down with a hemming tape. So I just placed pieces of it under the facing, and then I'll be going on to iron it to keep it down. Please be generous with the hem tape so that it can stick properly and not remove. I went ahead to do this for both the front and the back to ensure that they stay down and not be showing when I wear it. So after everything, I turned it inside out and gave it a good press to ensure the seams open up nicely and everything lies down flat. This is a simple style you can rock to church. You can make it short. You can rock it casually. You can also make this in a plain fabric and you can combine it with a colored print. You make the part of the sleeve that is fabric a very colored print so to ensure that it pops out. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. This brings us to the end of the tutorial. Thank you for watching and see you in my next video.